This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 2nd day of April in the year 2024. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. With an increase in power outages over the past several weeks, President Irfan Ali summoned the board of directors and top managers of the Guyana Power and Light Company to State House this morning to express his dissatisfaction with the entity's current performance. In a statement, the president's office said the meeting also examined the exponential growth in demand, aged assets, and the lack of redundancy in transmission. It was announced that the government has already engaged UK Export Finance to explore financing options for improvements to the transmission service. The president also asked the utility company to consider alternative options to provide bridging energy to meet the demand while waiting for the completion of the gas-to-energy project. GPL has explained that it expects a further growth in demand this year of around 30 megawatts. In September last year, the power company announced that there was an increase in peak demand, reaching 182 megawatts. At that time, the company encouraged power conservation, and there was even a move to remove large companies from the national grid during peak hours. However, GPL later announced the purchase of several generating sets from the Dominican Republic. More than $25 million was spent on that purchase, but the power problems have persisted since then and have worsened in recent weeks. Now there are questions surrounding the recently purchased generating sets and whether those sets are in working condition. This past weekend, several areas across the Marara and Berbice area were hit with multiple power outages, with many of them going on for a number of hours. Even the Prime Minister was forced to visit one of the GPL transmission locations to find out what was going on. GPL has blamed technical and other issues for the recent power outages. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Guyana's landscape is set to immensely transform, with some $221.4 billion earmarked to fast-track the country's infrastructural development. To improve accessibility, $204.1 billion was budgeted for roads and bridges. Some $6.9 billion will be going towards strengthening the country's river and sea defense, $8.1 billion and $2.3 billion for improved river and air transport respectively. These projects are supported by the country's first $1 trillion budget, which was supported by oil revenues.
Holiday spending put a dent in your cash. Top up your pockets in the Cash Splash promotion. Win over $5 million, including over $1 million in our weekly draws. Just purchase any Buster, Turbo, Fruita, Cool Kids or Viva. Look for the 8-digit code starting with 786. Then visit Facebook or IG at Buster Guyana or Turbo_Caribbean for more details.
Guinness Street Ballers, it's down to the final 8 this Saturday. It's the Guinness Greatest of the Streets, and Sunday for the semi-finals and finals at the National Park. Will Gold is Money make history with a third championship, or is there an upset in the making? Come and support your community and show that you're made of more. Consumers can win free Guinness and cool premiums with the purchase of every 6 bottles of Guinness. Admission free. Guinness, made of more. Please drink responsibly, 18 years and over.
Vice President Marat Jagdeo has announced that the government intends to launch a commission of inquiry into the crime wave that rocked the nation in the early 2000s. The announcement came days after the government was grilled by the UN Human Rights Committee on its failure to launch an inquiry into the crime wave, which spanned 2002 to 2009. In making the announcement at his last press conference, Vice President Jagdeo said it was the previous administration that indicated to the UN Human Rights Committee that a commission of inquiry would be launched into the crime wave.
The government will be going ahead with this COI because the UN wants it, Granger wanted it, and I hope that there will be no prevarication anymore. There shall be a COI into what took place in this period.
Mr. Jagdeo was the president of Guyana during the haunting crime wave, and it was during that period that the country was rocked by 3 massacres and scores of cases of executions and extrajudicial killings. In 2018, the APNU-AFC government promised a full investigation into the deaths of hundreds of Guyanese, including the former Minister of Agriculture under the PPP, Satyadeo Saw. Vice President Jagdeo said the Commission of Inquiry will likely reveal what is already established in the police report, as he dismissed the claim that more than 400 young Afro-Guyanese men were killed during the crime wave.
Even if it's 400, they used to say 400 young black men killed by the PPP. That's not true if you look at what happened in that period. Secondly, we know of leaders from the PNC who were supplying them with material and who used to visit the gangs.
In its most recent review on Guyana, the UN Human Rights Committee said it is concerned that the alleged extrajudicial killings that occurred between 2002 and 2006 have not been adequately investigated and prosecuted, and the perpetrators were not duly sanctioned despite a commitment to launch a presidential commission of inquiry. The United Nations Human Rights Committee has advised Guyana to adopt a comprehensive anti-discrimination legislation that extends far beyond discrimination in the workplace and provides full and effective protection against all forms of discrimination. Guyana is currently reviewing its Prevention of Discrimination Act of 1997, but the UN Human Rights Committee is concerned that that legislation may not address discrimination in its entirety. In its third periodic review of Guyana, the UN Human Rights Committee said the government should adopt comprehensive anti-discrimination legislation that explicitly addresses all spheres of life and prohibits direct, indirect, and intersectional discrimination on all grounds, including race, ethnicity, age, nationality, religion, migration status, disability, sexual orientation, and gender identity, and to ensure access to effective and appropriate remedies for victims of discrimination. The UN committee said it was also deeply concerned about the continued ethnic divide and tensions in the country, with hate speeches and incitement to racial hostility being spewed by politicians and public officials. It said the country must redouble its efforts to end the existing divide and tensions between ethnic groups and discrimination against ethnic minority groups, including by creating opportunities for open dialogue between various ethnic groups, promoting ethnic harmony and tolerance, and overcoming prejudices and negative stereotypes, including in schools and universities and throughout the media. The UN Human Rights Committee also said that the country must take appropriate steps to prevent, condemn, and combat hate speech and incitement to racial hostility directed at groups most exposed to racial discrimination, including by public officials and politicians. Racial profiling by the police and the ill treatment of and violence, including sexual violence on transgender individuals in police custody and in the prisons, are also among issues of concern, with the UN committee telling Guyana that violence against transgender persons worsened by underreporting and ineffective investigations into such human rights violations. It said failure by the police to investigate all allegations of discrimination and violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender persons, particularly murders, and to bring perpetrators to justice is unacceptable. The UN committee said the government must take all measures necessary to effectively combat and eliminate racial profiling by law enforcement officers by providing mandatory training on cultural diversity and the inadmissibility of racial profiling to law enforcement personnel. The report said they should also focus on combating violence and discrimination against persons based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. Let's tell you now that 2 Venezuelan nationals who were held on Friday in a go-fast boat with just over 1,100 pounds of cocaine have been charged and remanded to jail. The 2 men, Jose Felix Lindor and Javier Perez, appeared at the Lenora Magistrates Court this morning, where the drug trafficking charges were read to them. Both suspects pleaded not guilty to the drug trafficking charges and were remanded to jail by the presiding magistrate. Their next court appearance will be on the 10th of May. The men were arrested at Virgin Origin in the Escobar Islands, west of Marara area, with several large parcels of cocaine in a go-fast boat. The vessel was intercepted by the Coast Guard and canoe ranks during a joint operation. It was during a search of the vessel that the agents discovered the large quantity of narcotics, along with a quantity of fuel and other items. Canoes said the narcotics was tested positive to be cocaine, and the total weight seized was 1,181 pounds, which carries a street value in Guyana of more than $2.6 million US.
Guinness Street Ballers, it's down to the final 8 this Saturday in the Guinness Greatest of the Streets and Sunday for the semi-finals and finals at the National Park. Will Gold is Money make history with a 3rd championship, or is there an upset in the making? Come and support your community and show that you're made of more. Consumers can win free Guinness and cool premiums with the purchase of every 6 bottles of Guinness. Admission free. Guinness, made of more. Please drink responsibly, 18 years and over.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants. At the most critical life-changing moments, the National Insurance Scheme is here to ensure that your needs are covered. Access reimbursement for medical expenses for various aspects of your medical care. We know that eye care is of utmost importance. Receive assistance with our Spectacle Care voucher. Visiting the dentist? Dental care is also covered under our sickness benefit services. Offset the funeral expenses of a loved one with costs covered by our funeral benefits. National Insurance Scheme. We're there every step of the way.
Look at the breathtaking beauty of the Essequibo, from its pristine rivers to its abundant resources. It's a treasure that belongs to Guyana, and we ask Venezuela to respect the rule of international law.
Our commitment to this land is not just about ownership. It's about preserving its beauty and resources for our people and future generations.
The controversy between Guyana and Venezuela was settled internationally as full, perfect and final in 1899. Essequibo belongs to Guyana.
A 51-year-old man from Iflat on the west coast of the Demerara lost his life early this morning when he was hit down by a minibus while standing on the side of the roadway. The dead man has been identified as Nicholas Calawan. The accident occurred just after 3 o'clock this morning along the public road at Iflat. A police report stated that the minibus was being driven at a fast rate at the time of the deadly accident. The 29-year-old driver of the minibus told investigators that he was forced to swerve after a car being driven in front of him make a sudden U-turn along the road. The driver claimed that in swerving his minibus to avoid hitting the car, he slammed into the pedestrian who was at the side of the roadway. The minibus ended up through a fence and into a yard. The pedestrian was picked up in an unconscious state and taken to the Lenora Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The driver of the minibus sustained injuries, but was treated and sent away from the hospital. He has since been taken into police custody and is assisting with the investigations. There were 5 other persons in the minibus. They all sustained injuries and were kept overnight in the hospital for monitoring. Investigations into the deadly accident are ongoing tonight. A row between 2 prisoners at the Lusignan jail turned deadly on Saturday when one of the prisoners, Anthony Prince, was stabbed to death by another prisoner who has been identified as Shamar David. In a statement, the prison service explained that on Saturday afternoon, the men were making jokes about each other's girlfriends when that teasing turned violent. The prison service said prisoner Shamar Davis used a piece of mopstick and stabbed prisoner Anthony Prince to his neck. The injured prisoner was seen by a nurse on duty and rushed to the Georgetown Hospital, where he died while receiving treatment. The suspect has been separated from the general population of the prison as an investigation has been launched. A robbery suspect is expected in court this week over the most recent attack and robbery at a Chinese supermarket on the east coast of Demerara. The police reported that on Good Friday, 2 men entered the Hongyang supermarket wearing surgical masks and demanded money and valuables. One of the men was armed with a gun while the other was armed with a knife. The 2 escaped on a motorcycle but were cornered by a police patrol in the Lusignan area. According to the police, as the police patrol chased after the motorcycle riding bandits, one of them opened fire on the police. The suspect, who was riding the motorcycle, reportedly lost control, crashing into a trench. The 2 men, however, managed to escape from the scene, leaving their weapons and loot behind. A man who the police said matched the description of one of the suspects was later arrested and is in custody. The police said the security guard at the supermarket was also questioned since he was seen not being alert during the robbery. The matter remains under active investigations. US-based carrier United Airlines launched its Guyana service last evening with an inauguration flight from Houston, Texas. The airline will be offering 4 weekly non-stop flights between Houston and Georgetown using its 737 MAX 8 line of aircraft. The new service will allow customers easier and more direct access to Georgetown and Houston and will enhance the relationship between the U.S. and Guyana, a statement from the Chedijagan Airport stated. United Airlines currently serves 134 destinations in 67 countries. The airline's Senior Vice President for Global Network Planning and Alliances, Patrick Quill, said the company is committed to the region. He said the airline is excited to connect Houston as well as a broader united network with one of the fastest growing economies in the world, adding that the new route will offer customers convenient access to the natural beauty and rich cultural heritage of Guyana, and the airline is proud to remain the top airline to Latin America and the Caribbean from Houston, Texas. The U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Nico Terrio, in welcoming United Airlines to Guyana, emphasized the importance of strengthening the U.S.-Guyana relationship with the development of such business ventures. Guyana's Minister of Tourism, Onej Waldron, said the entry of United into the Guyana market is a significant development for the country's tourism product. She said it underscores the increasing interest in travel between Guyana and the U.S., a key source market for Guyana. Meanwhile, the Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgil, welcomed the addition of United Airlines and said the inaugural flight serves as a symbol of the government's vision for expanded air travel options. He said the venture also demonstrates that the international community has confidence in Guyana's growth and potential. United has joined American Airlines and JetBlue as the other U.S. carriers operating in the Guyana market.
In our search for sophistication and grace, the Super Stylistics team invites you to be part of something extraordinary. Mothers and daughters who possess aura and presence that transcend through time. Step forward and become part of the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024. Join our legacy as we redefine elegance for generations to come. The search for the epitome of timeless love begins now. Call 226-2825 or 626-0460 to secure your spot in the Mother and Daughter Pageant 2024.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Holiday spending put a dent in your cash. Top up your pockets in the Cash Splash promotion. Win over $5 million, including over $1 million in our weekly draws. Just purchase any Buster, Turbo, Fruita, Cool Kids, or Viva. Look for the 8-digit code starting with 786. Then visit Facebook or IG at Buster Guyana or Turbo_Caribbean for more details.
With your regional and international news tonight, I'm Svetlana Marshall in the region. Peru's president replaced 6 ministers on Monday after they abruptly resigned amid a fresh political scandal involving luxury watches that targets her, adding more volatility to the South American nation's increasingly rocky politics. According to Reuters, the slew of resignations, including the Interior Minister, follow a probe launched into allegations of illicit enrichment by President Dina Boluarte, who is being investigated over her high-end Rolex watches. Police and prosecutors raided the embattled leader's home and office over the weekend, looking for evidence of the origin of at least 3 Rolex watches. Boluarte has denied wrongdoing and insisted that she purchased the watches with her own money. Haiti is witnessing an unprecedented level of human rights abuses amid a state of chaos caused by gang violence, the United Nations Human Rights Chief said on Tuesday. In the absence of a functioning government, the UN Human Rights Chief said there had been a shocking rise in killings and kidnappings, as well as pervasive sexual violence. The scale of human rights abuses is unprecedented in modern Haitian history, he said in a video message to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. Reuters in a report said Haiti has been plunged into worsening conflict as gangs vie for control of the capital, Port-au-Prince, attacking police stations and the international airport, among other acts of violence. Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who announced his resignation on March 11, has signaled that a transitional council is nearly finalized and is key to ending the social and political crisis. The UN Human Rights Office said last week that gang violence had killed more than 1,500 people in the first 3 months of the year. And finally tonight, international news. At least 29 people have been killed and 1 injured in a fire in a nightclub in Turkey, according to the BBC. The Masquerade Club in the basement of a high-rise building in Istanbul was closed and being renovated during the day. The fire broke out just after midday, Istanbul governor said, adding that the cause was unclear. He said that the victims of the fire were thought to have been involved in the renovation work. Several people have been arrested in connection with the fire as investigation continues. They include the nightclub manager and the manager of the renovations. The mayor of Istanbul said the club had not applied for the correct construction permit. He expressed condolences to the families of the victims.
And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.